Welcome back. You're watching the Power Breakfast Show. Now, this morning our conversation is on pre-emergency hospital care. What should you do? Should you find yourself or your loved one or a stranger in an accident? What precautions should you take? And to help us understand this conversation, to help us teach us more, we have the Chief Medical Officer of AMREF Flying Doctors, Dr. Joseph Lelo, together with Mutegi Njau. Remember, any questions you might have for him regarding this matter, 22422 is the SMS line, or you can get us on our social media platforms. Our Twitter handle at Citizen TV Kenya. The hashtag is Power Breakfast, and our Facebook page, The Power Breakfast Show. Mutegi?
Welcome, Dr. Lelo.
Thank you very much.
But before you go to emergency pre-hospital care, we need to define ourselves. What actually is AMREF Flying Doctors? Is that a company or an NGO? What is it?
AMREF Flying Doctors is a company limited by guarantee, owned wholly by AMREF Health Africa, the NGO. So we are a for-profit company, but all our profits are channeled back to the AMREF Health Africa NGO, which now they use the profits. We are a source of unrestricted funds for AMREF Health Africa. So our profits are channeled back to charity work that AMREF Health Africa is well known for.
Which means if you are a company, you are making money. And I see you doing a lot of emergency work. Say, for instance, somebody was an accident in Wajir, and that person is just an ordinary person. You may not be able to afford your services for your company. How does that happen? How do you get paid?
We do a lot of charity work as well by ourselves as AMREF Flying Doctors.
How can you do charity when you are a company?
We have a kitty for that, although we have been lobbying a lot with the county governments to facilitate these transfers for their people to Nairobi, and we do a lot of that. We take them to Kenyatta Hospital.
I don't understand how the county pay for somebody had an accident.
Yes.
He's not an employee of a county.
Yes.
He's just an ordinary person in Wajir who was maybe shot by a gun. Then you need to fly them. Why would Wajir county pay for that person?
Being leaders and having the government structure within the Wajir County has a responsibility for the people in Wajir. And if the person is unable to obtain adequate medical care in their facility, the county government actually facilitate movement of this patient to Nairobi.
And what were you doing before the counties?
Before the counties, we are still doing the charity flights. If the county is unable to pay, after consultation, we do offer charity flights to patients from all over the country to Nairobi.
If people are unable to pay hospital bills,
yes,
how do you pay for an aircraft to fly you from point A to Nairobi to B?
That's why, actually, if you look at the history of AMREF Flying Doctors, AMREF Flying Doctors was an NGO. The formation of AMREF, and historically, this was an NGO to offer services to Kenyans who are needy. So based on that and our long history of doing this kind of work, we do feel it's our responsibility to be able to offer some charity flights to needy Kenyans as needed. So we do have a kitty for that.
Michael Woods, the one who started AMREF. AMREF means Africa Medical Research Foundation.
Yes.
Mainly it was doing research.
Yes.
And flying people.
Yes.
As an NGO.
Yes.
How did you turn out to do a company?
As the nature of what has happened in the NGO world, the NGOs have seen a need to evolve, to be more competitive and to be more self-sustaining in the future. So that is why it was seen necessary for AMREF Flying Doctors to become a business wing of AMREF Health Africa, and that is what has happened. So it is a limited company, limited by guarantee, so our directors are all from AMREF. So the ownership of the Flying Doctors wing is from AMREF Health Africa.
So who are the shareholders of this company?
There are no shareholders. It's owned by the NGO.
And the NGO, who owns the NGO?
The directors of the NGO. There's no ownership. It's actually a board of directors.
Are they Kenyan? Are they foreigners?
There are some Kenyans and there are foreigners as well.
Oh.
Yes.
Now, going to our main subject, which is about emergency pre-hospital care.
Yes.
My concern is about leave alone gunshots. It's not very often you find people being shot and then they need attention. It's mainly accidents, motor accidents, particularly motorbike. In this country, if you go to every police station, you see hundreds of motorbikes which caused accidents.
Yes.
What do you do to the person who had who was a motor rider in a motorbike, or the driver, him or herself? If there is an accident and you witness, what do you do?
The first thing is to make sure that the scene is secure. As a helper, as a first responder to the scene, you must make sure that you are secure yourself. So if the person is still on the road, you try to at least secure him, get him off the road, at the same time ensuring your own safety. So get him off the road, do a quick assessment and call for help. That should be the initial thing.
Secure means what?
Get him off from any immediate danger. If you're still on the road, it means you're still in danger, you can be hit again. And even as a first responder, you need to secure yourself. So just put out warning signs if you can, call for help, get the person out of immediate danger, and then proceed from there with your first aid. And the immediate first aid care should be just a quick assessment and calling for help as well. That's the first step that you should do. Call for help and secure the environment. Secure yourself and secure the victim. That should be the first step.
You'll notice that when there's an accident, there are a lot of people.
Yes. Yes, that is true.
What do you tell the public? What do you tell them to do? There are a lot of people there's an accident, a motor car road, and crowds gather there.
Yes.
The other drivers stop there, trying to see what, being inquisitive. What should those people do?
If someone is unable to offer any immediate help, the best thing is to stand aside and let the person who knows what he's doing to access the patient. So the first thing, if you're unable to offer any help, if you're just a spectator, please keep your distance, let someone help the patient at that time. So that should be on Kenyans' minds. I think we have a lot of, we like spectating a lot, but if you're unable to help, just keep your distance, let help come. Call for help, keep your distance and wait.
People, motorists, fear taking patients their cars. They don't want their cars soiled, their blood. They don't care. They fear about the police. They fear about admissions. If I take a patient, if I saw an accident, I witnessed an accident, and I take a patient to hospital, the nearest hospital, the hospitals normally who will pay.
Yeah.
So what should I do?
You do your part. I think if you take this patient to a public hospital, they will not ask those many questions. So actually that is why most patients, hit and run victims, are taken to the nearest public hospital, which has a responsibility to take care of this person. And even any private hospital has a responsibility to offer first aid to anyone who's brought in need. So you should rush to the nearest hospital, and then once first aid has been done, the patient can then be moved to a hospital of choice, or whatever decisions can be made at that point to move the patient after. But initial care is a right, a citizen's right to receive initial care at the nearest medical facility to the scene of incident.
Okay, somebody has been shot, and you witnessed that, like it happened in Garissa.
Yes.
What do you tell the members of public to do in a situation like that one? So many people were injured.
Yeah.
So what happened? Or what's it?
Yeah, in such a case, that now is a scene of crime. The first responder should be law enforcement. So as a medic, one of the steps is to make sure the scene is secure before you even go there. So if it's not secure, wait for law enforcement, take a position and wait until the scene is neutralized, and the law enforcement officers can call in the medics. So the medics now will be able to go in and assist the people who are injured. So the first step, like in gunshot injuries, most of the time is a lot of bleeding, so it's to control the bleeding by putting pressure on the wounds. And then...
What do you mean putting pressure on the wound?
You have bandages. Ideally, just use a bandage or a clean cloth if you don't have any.
Remove your shirt, that's what you're saying.
You can remove your shirt, yes. You can, if you don't have any other material to apply pressure on the wound, you can put pressure using your shirt on the wound.
Or their own clothes?
Yes. Use your own clothes or the victim's own clothes if you don't have bandages. But being a medic who's responding to a scene, I would assume that you would have a kit with bandages.
That
and
is
all
yourself.
sorts of things. Yes.
What about the public?
A member of the public should just apply pressure with whatever clean cloth that he can access and call for help. So call for help, put pressure and wait.
When you say call for help,
Yes.
what does that mean?
Call for help can be as basic as shouting and say, hey, we are over here, please call the police, please call an ambulance. That is a call for help. And then you access the victim and try to do what you can. Call for help.
What about when there is a motor accident and the vehicle is mangled
Yes.
and the people inside,
Yes.
and a lot of people come and pull the body. You try to maybe open the doors and whatever entry you can access.
Yeah.
And in many cases, more injury is done by the helpers. What should the helper do?
I think it's unfortunate that Kenyans have, we do tend to, we have good intentions of helping people who are victims of an accident, but a lot of times we end up causing more harm than good. So I would advise anyone who witnesses an accident, if you are unable to extract the person safely, just call for help and wait. Do not attempt to pull people out. It might worsen spinal injuries and all that. So if you are unable to, unless the vehicle is on fire, if it's not on fire, you're better off calling for help, securing the scene and waiting. You don't need to start pulling people out and throwing them in, stopping passerbys' cars. Call for help, the ambulances will come and the person will get adequate medical assistance on the scene and through the transfer to hospital, and that will save a life.
What are you saying? If an ordinary person
Yes.
trying to remove bodies from a car,
Yes.
which is not burning,
Yes.
but people are there,
Yes.
ordinary people don't know how to remove them. They
Yes.
just they know one way.
They do pull out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
So
do
what are you
pull
saying?
out and
They
cause
don't.
injury. Yes, just leave the patient as is. If you can talk to him, who's inside the car, reassure the patient that you're getting help for him and call for help. There'll be an expert who will come. It might take a while, but he will extract him in a safe manner and transport him in a safe manner to hospital. So safety is a key. Safety is a key when you are dealing with accidents.
Do you
So-
and the AMREF, you as AMREF and the Red Cross,
Yes.
do you teach members of the public how to deal with those? Because many Kenyans don't know.
Yeah, many
And there are
Kenyans.
many accidents taking place.
Yes.
Many Kenyans don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
They just pull.
Yes, that's
So are we,
true.
what measure are you taking to educate people how to do it?
yeah.
Because accidents are happening everywhere.
Yeah.
So-
we do offer training programs for first aid, acute trauma life support, cardiac life support. We do have trainings for such scenarios. We have first aid for the workplace. We have first aid for house helps, first aid for people who work in remote parts of the world. So we do have courses that are tailored for such situations and to enable organizations and individuals to prepare adequately in the unlikely scenario that you are a first responder in an incident. You should know what to do.
What is the format of this training? Because if you talk about workplace, I've worked here many years. I've never seen anybody coming to train people here about first aid or anything.
Yeah.
So what is the format of the training?
The format of the training is once you contact us to do this, we'll be able to assess your needs and develop your first aid course for your premises. If you're in an office block, we can be able to come and do a training here. It will take about 2 to 3 days. So we do trainings outside in remote bush lodges. We do trainings in offices, in hotels. So it is a customizable kind of first aid training that is made appropriate for your organization.
Which means it's not voluntary. You have to ask for it.
You have to ask for it.
What about in school?
In schools, as well as in schools, we can have a program for the schools as well. So we can send our trainers there and they'll offer the training for the school, which also will be customized for them, because the kind of injuries you expect in an office building such as this versus what you'd find in a school are a bit different. But the principles of first aid remain the same. So we are able to...
Which means that it's not a kind of a formalized kind of thing. That you have to ask for it.
Yes, you have to ask for
And
it.
if you don't ask, you remain ignorant. Isn't there a requirement maybe from government or some ministry or some to ensure that Kenyans are trained on this thing? Every Kenyan.
Yeah, unfortunately, there is no requirement that compels organizations to train people. That is the unfortunate situation. There's no community readiness, so to speak. There's no community readiness for disasters and for incidents. That's why we have people pulling out victims of car crashes, moving them in an unsafe manner to hospitals. So there's no community awareness about what someone should do. So we are in the process of trying to lobby for something like that will improve community readiness to such major and minor incidents.
There is a kind of a, looks to me as if it's a craze by the county governments to buy ambulances. I don't know whether these ambulances are proper ambulances. You know, if you look at the Kenya Red Cross ambulances,
yes.
they are hospitals. They have equipment. I don't know whether you have made an assessment about that. Are they ambulances or are they just motor vehicles?
Unfortunately, like you said, we do not have an ambulance policy in this country. So you can get a van and stick the word ambulance on it and put a siren, and it's called an ambulance, and the police will let you drive on the wrong side of the road. So we are in the process with the Ministry of Health trying to come up with a document that will streamline these issues and have a proper types of ambulance, a definition of an ambulance, what should be in the ambulance, who should staff the ambulance, because you may have the equipment but your staff don't know how to use it. So it needs a lot of shaping up and streamlining, and it is in process, taking long, but there's a movement towards getting these things in order.
So if there is an accident on the road, somewhere in the Budu somewhere, and I'm a motorist,
yes,
and this person is injured, how do we ensure that when I take him, transport him from that accident scene to the hospital, that the body is handled proper by me, not an ambulance? There's no ambulance, it's myself.
There are certain procedures that you need to have training for.
I'm not trained, I'm just...
Yeah, as a bystander, if you just call for help. That is the ideal situation. If, as a bystander, call for help, and help should arrive within minutes. But in the ideal situation, that is what should happen. Call for help, secure whatever, put warning signs so that other drivers don't hit the guy again, and wait for help. That is the ideal situation, but unfortunately that's not the case.
What if I want to take him to hospital?
If you want to take him to hospital, it's a heavy responsibility to you as an individual. Yeah, so the decision you make at that point, if it's not the right one, then you can cause more damage to the patients than would have been.
How would I cause damage? What are the probabilities of causing damage other than helping?
Yeah, the probabilities are not they're not absolute. We cannot have an exact figure, but in cases of, for example, a spinal injury, yes, if someone has broken his neck,
I probably may not know.
Yeah, you may not know. That is why it is unfortunate.
I may not know even why it's only the patient who knows why it's happening.
Yes,
and maybe you can see blood from the nose or from the head. You may not know it is broken.
Exactly.
So what do you do?
That is why you should let the experts come and handle the situation. But what you should do as an individual is, if you have the right training, you would know how to protect the neck while extracting this patient. So that it's important to protect the whole spine, because sudden movements, twisting, bending might worsen a stable injury, might make it unstable. So it's important to protect the spine of this patient, to control bleeding, if any, to apply pressure on the wounds, secure, and then transport. What happens usually is people just grab the patient, throw in the car, and rush to hospital. So even at the point when the experts arrive, they'll be able to make a proper assessment. They call the hospital beforehand and tell them, we have this kind of patient who has this kind of injury. Will please arrange for this surgeon or whatever is needed, blood, if there's any, instead of just showing up to the hospital with somebody who's bleeding in the back of your car. Yeah. So the experts will ensure adequate planning, and they'll prepare for a safe movement of the patient.
That what I'm saying is, experts are not there. It's somewhere in the boot, somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, experts are not there, and it is unfortunate.
So what do I do?
You do what you can. It is unfortunate that the experts are not there, but if you can call for help, please do.
Okay, tell me how to call for help.
If you can't call for help, call the emergency numbers.
The 991?
Yes, call the emergency numbers, or you can call the AMREF flying doctors. We also have an emergency line. We have ambulances. We have trained personnel.
Maybe you can tell us that line.
Yeah, it's 699-2000. 020-699-2000. So we'll be able to respond to your situation. So After a quick assessment, we'll decide whether it's a ground ambulance or an air ambulance, depending on the distances and what kind of hospital facilities are nearby. So maybe to add on to that, it would be important if the government itself had a policy for such. If we had a unified an incident command system, that's what it's called. If we had an incident command system such that everybody knows what should happen in case of a problem, like the unfortunate situation what happened in Garissa. We had so many agencies coming in to assist, private, government institutions, NGOs. Everybody was trying to do something without a central command. So it really causes, there's a lot of delay. Maybe some lives could have been saved extra above what we managed to save if we had a proper incident command system. Yeah.
When you see what happened to Westgate,
yes,
and what happened in Garissa, maybe one can imagine that people, like Animal Farm, some more, people are more equal than others.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. Yeah, that is the situation.
How do you compare the two when it comes to responding?
I think Westgate, by nature of it being in the city,
yeah,
the response was a bit faster in terms of from the medics side. Yeah, Garissa is out of town. Information was not coming in as fast as we would have liked. So I think the fact was that Garissa was a bit out of town. Help is a bit harder to get, while in Garissa ambulances are fewer. In Garissa hospitals are fewer. So that was those are the differences between the two situations.
But you said there was, when you went for reporting in Garissa, there was confusion.
There was some confusion.
How can it be avoided in the future? Suppose there is another Garissa.
Yeah.
What should be done to improve the situation?
Yeah, what should be done, I think, is that we should have an incident command system. Whenever there's an incident, there should be one point of contact, one commander who has an overview of the whole situation. He knows who to call.
But I thought Kaiseri was there with the central command.
Yes.
Of course, commanding them. Yeah.
He was commanding the law enforcement.
Yes.
But you see, there is a reaction, the medicine part, the emergency care. It needs a lot of coordination. There are a lot of expenses that those ones no one is going to be able to ever pay for those. There's a lot of expenses. You need to mobilize so many people. There are experts that need to be called in. So who do the first responders respond to? If your company with an ambulance have come with mine, our systems are different, our protocols are different. Who should we all respond to? We don't just start grabbing patients. Yeah.
So in that case, when you say there shouldn't be a central command, done by who? Is it the Garissa government?
Not the Garissa government. It is the National Defense Operations Center who have that responsibility.
National?
NDOC, National Disaster Operations Center. So that is, they have that responsibility, and they do have a very well-written disaster manual, but we need to activate it and roll it out and do a lot more marketing and inform people about this. But this is squarely in their docket. And
where are they? Which department?
NDOC is under, I don't know the ministry, but they are at Nyayo House.
Were they there?
Yes, they were highly involved in this. They were there.
So why was there confusion then? If they were there, then they should take charge.
We were not able to identify them as NDOC, so we need, those are things I was telling you, we need to streamline the whole response system. Somebody should come and say, I'm NDOC, ambulances on this side, how many doctors do we have, what is the situation, are the police there? You know, that should be somebody coordinating it from one central point at the scene of crime and at the headquarters here. So it should be, everybody should know who the contact person is.
Very interesting. In a situation where there is an accident and say, as I said, motor vehicle accident, and as you said, there is no in a boot, there is no help. There are no those so-called experts, and you are telling me I keep off, I secure the place. How long can I wait?
Now that will depend on your judgment. If you're in a place where you know help is not coming, then you should do something. If you are in a position to take the patient to hospital by yourself, go ahead and do it. But I'm talking about the ideal situation here, where you know there's an ambulance a phone call away, people will come. You call, secure the environment and call. In the less than ideal situation, which happens quite frequently, you do what you can, make a judgment. You can call for help, call someone to assist if you have a doctor who you can call and ask for advice. So, but you have to do what you can in that situation.
Okay, then in a institution like that, when there's a bus accident, maybe 50 people involved, how does an ordinary Mwananchi distinguish between the dead ones and the living? Because Kenyans or human beings, you don't want to go touching people.
Yeah.
How do you know? In fact, I remember when I sent a reporter to do a story of an accident, and when the reporter came emotionally, he came and told me, "Oh, they are dead. They are dead. They are dead." How does an ordinary person distinguish the dead, the very injured, and the living? How can you know? Bodies are there.
Yeah.
Maybe some they are not making noise.
Yeah.
Some are, so you know if they are making noise or. But how do you know? How do you know the dead?
I think that's, as I've said, would be best left to trained personnel. Although as a private citizen, you can just check for breathing.
And how do you check breathing?
Check for movement of the chest. Check for breathing, and you might be able to get a pulse, to feel a pulse. That is a basic, what as a bystander, what you can do to check.
So you touch somebody's...
Yes, check the pulse or the wrist, check for breathing. And but again, I still emphasize, you must call for help. You must call for help when you're at a scene of... Don't get in over your head. Call for help. There are experts there. We are there to come in and be able to advise and mobilize. We can take that responsibility because we are in a position to do something that is helpful.
You said about transporting people who are sick, then you ensure that you protect the neck.
The spine.
Or
yes.
the spine.
Yes, the whole spine. Yes.
What about legs? What about limbs?
Limbs are, they're not as, in terms of getting worse, they're not as risky as a spinal injury. Somebody can lose his ability to walk if you don't protect the spine. Somebody can be paralyzed from the neck down or from the waist down if you don't protect the spine. But limbs have a lot of, they can take a lot of injury and still survive. So you just need to immobilize. If you have the equipment and the skill, can immobilize the limb. It reduces also the pain, and then transport the patient
safely. What do you mean immobilize?
Immobilize means you splint it so that it doesn't move.
So you tie
yes, you can put a splint, you can fashion
a piece of wood.
Splint. Yes, you can use a piece of wood as an emergency measure to hold the bone straight, yeah, and not to move. So it has to be immobilized, and then you transport the person. So you can do that for the long bones.
People, you gotta take it tight.
But it has to be straight. If you are unsure, just leave it. Yeah, if you are unsure, just leave it. Try not to move the patient much. Be gentle and transport the patient to a hospital. Yeah. So do as little harm as possible. Don't make things worse, and that's why I'll say again, call the experts, and we will come.
Okay, you brought some things here. I don't know, what are these for?
These are just mannequins that we use for our training. So we do constant in-house training and training outside. We train outside, as like I said, we do a lot of first aid trainings. So these are some of the mannequins that we use to demonstrate some procedures on patients. So they're just mannequins. So like, for example, if you had a training to do here, we would come with them and demonstrate some procedures on them.
There is a common disease that has developed in this country about heart. A lot of people are dying of heart problems.
That's true.
People are unable to breathe because of high blood pressure or stuff like that. If I had a patient like that, somebody who is not breathing, what do I do?
Somebody who's not breathing, that's an acute emergency. So, as I've said, secure the scene, call for help. So, secure the scene and call for help.
I don't know. Here I am in my house.
Yes.
Say my wife is having problems.
Yes.
She can't breathe. I can't take her to hospital. I can't do it. There is nothing I can do.
You can take her to hospital if you have. You can try to at least prop her up, sit her up if there's a breathing problem. Sit her up, reassure her, talk to her, and then if you have done your assessment and seen that it might take longer for help to arrive, you move to hospital. You can take her to hospital by yourself.
I saw in the Facebook the other day somebody talking about how to help somebody breathe. Isn't there a way to help somebody who is not able to breathe? Be made to breathe.
Be made to breathe. You need some equipment.
Like what?
You need oxygen, you need masks, you need bags. There's a lot of specific equipment that you would require to help somebody to breathe in the house. The easiest thing you can do is position them, just prop them up just a bit, sit them up, put a pillow behind them, sit them up and reassure them. And then if the breathing is still bad, move to hospital quickly, where they have the equipment, they have the oxygen. I will call an ambulance. An ambulance will come, it has the equipment already inside, and a trained person who can use it. So it comes with oxygen and ready to rush the person to hospital.
Okay, I think, Dr. we run out of time. I will talk again about this matter when time comes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mutegi. Thank you.